The Bill Shakespeare Project presents This Week in Shakespeare for the week ending Monday, December the 3rd, 2018. Hola, Bartophiles, I'm Bill, and welcome to the 223rd episode of This Week in Shakespeare, a video release brought to you by the Bill Shakespeare Project. This is our weekly opportunity to let you know about the latest and greatest in Willie Shakespeare headlines coming at you every Tuesday. The goal here is to hit you with a quick blast, no more than 10 minutes tops, of Bard-related news. Plus, we'll try to serve up some historical dates for what were the past 7 days of the year. So, this week's news stories included: Newsmax ran an interesting op-ed using the play Julius Caesar as an analog for the dilemmas facing the incoming Democratic-ruled House of Representatives. OU Daily ran the announcement by Oklahoma Shakespeare in the Park of their 2019 lineup, which includes Twelfth Night, The Comedy of Errors, The Book of Will, and The Tempest. The Spectator in England, in a quasi-review of the new book Shakespeare in the Renaissance, The Earl of Southampton, The Essex Rebellion, and the Poems That Challenged Tudor Tyranny by Claire Asquith, discusses the author's view of the Shakespeare as a political pamphleteer. The Independent in Ireland also ran a related story of this scholar who interprets Shakespeare's The Rape of Lucrece as neither a poem nor about the rape of a Roman noblewoman, but is in fact a political pamphlet decrying the persecution of the country's Catholics. It's an interesting take. Broadway World ran the announcement by Baltimore Shakespeare Factory of their 2019 season, including Cymbeline, Romeo and Juliet, The Merry Wives of Windsor, and Hamlet, this last one being in original pronunciation. Boise State Radio announced the 2019 slate for Idaho's Shakespeare Festival, including The Taming of the Shrew and Julius Caesar. And finally, in a piece wonderfully titled Snowflakes and Trigger Warnings, the website The Conversation reminds us that Shakespearean violence has always upset people. Now, let's take a look back on the last 7 days and how they relate to Shakespearean history, both his and the history in his plays. On November 27, 1582, the marriage license for William Shakespeare and Anne Hathaway was issued at the Episcopal Register at Worcester. Shakespeare was only 18, and Anne Hathaway was 8 years his senior, and pregnant. On November the 28th, 1489, Margaret Tudor was born, the older of the two surviving daughters of Henry VII and the elder sister of Henry VIII. She would marry James IV of Scotland and birth to him James V. Her grandson James VI of Scotland would later become King James I of England. On November 29th, 1820, British actor Edmund Kean made his triumphant American stage debut as Richard III in New York City at the age of 33. He was one of the great Shakespearean tragedians of his day. He would die in England some 13 years later. On November the 30th, 1929, the Douglas Fairbanks Mary Pickford film of The Taming of the Shrew was released in the U.S., according to IMDb, the Internet Movie Database. According to Wikipedia, it was a month earlier. Regardless, this is the first sound movie adaptation of a Shakespeare play under the same name, and the two stars were married to each other at the time. On November the 1st, 2007, British actor and director Anton Rogers passed away. He played Henry V on stage in Coventry in 1968. Yeah, I'd never heard of him either. On November the 2nd, 1995, novelist, essayist, and dramatist William Robertson Davies passed away. When he graduated from Oxford in 1938, his thesis was entitled Shakespeare's Boy Actors. Later, he would also publish the book Shakespeare for Young Players. And in the 1950s, he was instrumental in founding the Stratford Shakespeare Festival of Canada. On December the 3rd, 1368, Charles VI of France was born, also known as Charles the Beloved and Charles the Mad. He was the French king during the 100 Years' War, and more importantly, during the reign of Henry V. His daughter Isabella was the wife of Richard II, and his daughter Catherine would become Henry V's queen. Charles would sign away the inheritance of the throne to his own son in the Treaty of Troyes, which named Henry the King of France upon Charles's death. Of course, Henry would die 2 months before Charles, so much for that. And that was your Week in Shakespeare, brought to you by the Bill Shakespeare Project. Now, if you've enjoyed this news review, tell a friend and hit the subscribe button to keep from missing these news, reviews, and history videos. For our daily blog and previous Twiz episodes, including links to the news stories we covered this week, as well as the real Bill Shakespeare Project podcast, check us out at thebillshakespeareproject.com. And we'll catch you next week.